You know, underrated players. I don't know anybody who plays for Crystal Palace. I don't think they get enough. They get enough credit. I mean, what more could you want than wingers like Wilfried Zaha, who's done well, but I suppose with a 20 million transfer behind him, you could hardly describe him as under the radar or underrated.
The obvious one is James Milner at Man City, for all the obvious reasons, again, because so many big name superstar players, but James Milner gives you 8 or 9 out of 10 every week and just goes unnoticed in some respects. But he can play on the left, he can play on the right, he can play left back, right back, centre midfield. Just the most versatile player in the Premier League at the moment.
Okay, this one's going to surprise you. For me, John Terry. Over the years, clearly he's been rated. He's been in many of the world's best teams. He's been in many of the Premier League's best teams. Of course, England captain, playing for his country. But I think if you're asking me right here, right now, he's probably underrated because he doesn't play for his country. And under Benitez and AVB, definitely went off the boil. I think largely down to the way that he was utilised as a player and the way that Chelsea played. A high pressing game, which doesn't suit his game because of his lack of pace. If you play high up the pitch and leave grass in behind, he can get exposed. But Jose has used him to certainly this season and last season used his abilities to get the best out of him.
Yannick Bolasie is getting a bit more credit this season. He's a very, very exciting player. So, you know, he would be one.
Mark Walters at Stoke. I think week in, week out, he puts a shift in for Mark Hughes. Can play wide right, can play down the middle on his own, gets his fair share of goals. And another reason why Stoke would have enjoyed a good year again this year.
And I think people perhaps overlook, because of his misdemeanours both on and off the field, I think it's easy to look at John and not let that cloud your opinion. If you remove all of that and just look at him as the footballer and the player, I think he's underrated. And he rarely gives the ball away. If you watch whenever he heads the ball, whether it be from the keeper's arms or whether it be from set pieces, rarely does he give the ball away. He doesn't just lump balls upfield. He tries to keep possession, whether it be a chest pass or a header. And he's been outstanding this year, scored some big goals, continues to, as he did in the League Cup final, and will probably go on and lift the Premier League title as well. So I think this season, he's probably a little underrated.
Well, do you know the first image that comes to mind is Andros Townsend? I mean, I can't quite understand. I could understand the fuss about him when he came into the England team and basically was provided the impetus that saw them qualify for the European Championships, and he was kind of hailed as a key member of the England attack for years to come, and then suddenly disappears.
Scott Dann at Crystal Palace. Centre half, I think he came into the side last year. Tony Pulis brought him from Blackburn. Obviously in the Championship, but I think ever since he's been there, he's been excellent, outstanding. And one of the main reasons why Crystal Palace stayed up last year and why they're going to stay up this year. He's big, strong, experienced, and knows how to defend. And that's a big thing in the Premier League at the moment, because I think defending in the Premier League has perhaps gone a little bit. I think we're seeing some really poor goals going in. So Scott Dann at Crystal Palace.
I also think, I can't understand why Jefferson Montero doesn't start every game for Swansea. I think he's devastating.
Another player which I think is underrated is Ki Sung-young, who plays in the middle park for Swansea, who technically really gifted. He's a big lad, can put his foot in, wins his fair share of headers as well. I was very surprised actually when Swansea let him go on loan to Sunderland last season, and I thought did exceptionally well there. You look at the way that Swansea have done and how well they've done under Gary Monk. He's been a huge part of that. I saw him and John Joe Shelvey at Stamford Bridge, the way they kept possession and played exceptionally well. I think he could probably fit into an awful lot of teams, big teams. I no disrespect to Swansea, but I think if you look at Arsenal, I don't think he'd look out of place in an Arsenal shirt. I think they probably need someone of his size. Doesn't score enough goals for me. That would be the one thing that I would look at his game and perhaps look to see an improvement. But he's always impressed me whenever I've seen him. Excellent player, really good, both feet. And like I said, I think would probably strengthen most squads.
A player that I don't think gets enough credit, persistently gets enough credit for great character, steadiness, consistency, attitude, reasonable technique. Mark Noble, West Ham, constant factor of an ever-changing picture. Maybe I'm just biased because he seems such a nice lad and he seems so ever willing on the field, you know. But I would love to see him given a chance in the senior England team. He's played often enough in the under-21s, but I'd love to see him given a chance just to see how he went.
Another player that I've always feared whenever Chelsea come up against him is Stephen Naismith for Everton. Always seems to score, works his tail off, scores some big goals, important goals.
Oh, and one other thing, Eduardo Vargas. If QPR can't find a place for him in the team, I think, okay, across South America he wouldn't be underrated, but he is in Shepherd's Bush.